Hello and welcome to another episode of Hey Joe, What You Know. Delighted to have Talia Lazarus with me this morning. Talia's a podcast host, presenter. You do loads of different things, Talia. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm very good. And thank you for having me. How are you doing this morning?
Yeah, good. Busy day so far. Walk the dog, kids off to school, all that sort of stuff.
That's
Yeah,
busy.
already been out, copies and all that sorted. But yeah, tell us about you. What are you up to at the minute? I know you've got a podcast called I Got Back Up. It's a bit about recovering from serious injury, setbacks, that sort of thing. You know, you've had lots of interesting guests on it so far. You know, people like Josh Myers, the actor, for example. I think you've had a model who's beaten cancer and then gone on to modeling. So you've had different people from all sorts of spectrums. Yeah, just tell us about you and how you got into that first of all.
Yeah, of course. So my podcast, I Got Back Up, it's a life stories podcast where every episode I talk to somebody completely different, where we talk and we connect through life-changing events, traumas, recoveries, anything of the sorts. And you're right, people that have had accidents, let's say, with physical injuries, people that have living with or survived cancer, sobriety, grief, anxiety, depression, like anything, and absolutely anything. Because at the end of the day, I am very vocal in saying that, in my opinion, everyone on this planet's going through something. I used to say you walk in a room and like 90%, but no, I'm now convinced it's like everyone. And I don't obviously want to offend anyone here, but everyone's going through something different. Whatever it might be, everyone is going through something different to some extreme, extremity of what they are going through. And, it can even be a case of just, let's say, breaking your wrist, and how you go through the recovery or how that affects your everyday life. You might have a very hands-on job where you suddenly can't use your hand anymore. And it's just things like that. And I launched the show after an accident I had myself. Would you like me to go into it?
If you're comfortable to,
Yeah,
yeah.
of course, of course, of course. Very comfortable. So back in August 2021, I lost control on an electric scooter and I hit a bus. And actually, something at the time of the accident, when the paramedics came to the scene and they bent my leg, they said nothing's broken. And they asked me if I could walk to the ambulance. And I never forget, I remember I then looked at them and I said, I don't know, like, can I walk to the ambulance? I asked them, they're the paramedics. And I put my arms over, they said yes. So I put both my arms over the paramedic shoulders. I took one step on my left leg and my ankle went one direction, my knee went the other direction, and then my leg came back together. So just imagine, like, cook spaghetti. That was my leg. I did my ACL, my MCL, and my meniscus. So it's a beautiful football injury and, every kind of sports injury you can imagine. But no, I didn't do it playing sports. I did it having an accident. Um, I've had two knee surgeries. I've relearned how to walk. And during the time of around my first knee surgery, which was a month after the accident, I had 2 weeks off work, as you can do when you have surgeries. You're highly medicated. And the Sunday night before I went back to work, I quit my job. I used to work in events and exhibitions, and I just quit. I think it was a mix of different things, maybe the medication. I'd never quit a job before without another job lined up ever in my life, and I just quit because I wanted to be a travel journalist. Ironically, I wanted to be a travel journalist. That was my big idea during the 2 weeks off. And lo and behold, one thing led to another thing, which led to another thing. And by the end of that year, I started talking to a few of my friends who'd been through their own journeys, and I started to write up their stories on a blog. I called the blog I Got Back Up. And what I was noticing was that the people's stories I was, talking to were so appreciative and grateful I was giving them a platform to share their voice. And the people that were reading the stories at the time, like, wow, if this person could do X, Y, Z after what they've been through, it makes me want to you know, it makes me want to do X, Y, Z as well. And then I had my second surgery. It was kind of like a roller coaster I was going through, kind of was going up and then had my second surgery, came shooting back down. I hit rock bottom and 500 billion feet below at that time. And a couple of months later, I basically started my podcast. And the reason I started it was because when I used to interview, whoever it was for the blog, I would record the interview so I could transcribe them. And I was listening back to one of the transcriptions one day and I thought, yeah, oh, sorry, one of the interviews, and I thought these need to be heard, not just read. There is so much more emotion when you hear someone's story, through voice. And lo and behold, I started a podcast. And I still do the podcast to this day. I have had, I think, about 80 or so guests from all over the world. And the best, beautiful thing about, video these days is you can interview or talk to someone in any country and any time zone. And I've spoken to people all over the world from all walks of life, from all different backgrounds, all different stories. And the one thing I notice the most is that it doesn't matter what you've been through, is that everyone can actually relate to each other. If you want to see it that way, you can relate to everyone in your own way.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I uh, not quite the same in terms of the severity of injury, but I snapped my Achilles about 7 or 8 years ago now, playing tennis.
Mm,
And it just went pop. And I was working for a big sort of sports news organization at the time. And it was a couple of weeks before I was supposed to go to Euro 2016.
mhm,
So I did that, and I was like, yeah, I was obviously gutted for that. And then my sort of journey back to being able to pretty much walk properly was almost about a year, because I remember when back into work, we ended up going to Manchester to Soccer and I was doing some filming up at Soccer and we were late back on the train, and I had to basically leg it with my sort of splint on still for the train coming back to Kent where we live, and it tore again slightly, so it set me back again. So I was just like, yeah, similar sort of thing, what's happening here? Back down again. And then
mhm.
not so long after that, actually, that job went. So I lost that job. And then I became freelance. But yeah, that sort of time where I wasn't able to, to walk properly, I was having to go to Canary Wharf, which is, as you know, it's an absolute pain to get to at the best of times. But with crutches and uh, the boot on as well, it was just demoralizing. So yeah, sort of I reflected in some way, and I think I didn't have sort of a clear. I was always sort of doing what I was wanting to do anyway, with the sports production, producing. Um, but yeah, it took me out of the full-time workflow, and then it's taken me into freelance, which I think suits me much more. So I'm doing a lot more different things, different projects. But as you say, that sort of it was a start of a reset in a way. Um, but it's taken like 6, 7 years to, going through different ups and downs and different experiences to get where you are now, essentially. But
And
no,
I think that, well, sorry, no, I was going to say, and that's exactly what it is. It's the up and downs. It's the constant of life. At the end of the day, the one thing that's going to be a constant in life is change, and because it is. And it can be drastic, huge changes that you absolutely didn't expect, or it can be tiny little changes. But we are thrown off our paths that we just, we're going down and we envision. We can be thrown off these paths sometimes. And it can be such a huge change, like you were saying, in respect to that. And it can take a really long time to figure a lot of things out. And like I'm also, I also believe that we have to face darkness in life. I know that sounds really like what, but we have to, because without dark, we wouldn't have light. Without light, we wouldn't have dark. It's yin and yang. It's just what it is. Um, and we can truly feel those light, happy, incredible, peaceful moments and experience those successes when we especially have understood what darkness is like. Because then you are even more grateful for the more amazing things that are happening. Because I'm sure at some point in whoever's listening's life, or yours, or I know mine, you just want everything to stop, and you want the thoughts or the pain or whatever it is, you just want it all to go away. And then one day you wake up and you're like, hey, I'm okay today. It's life, Some days you'll feel great, some days you won't. But then that's still okay because we're human beings at the end of the day. And I just want to say one thing. You said, your what you went through isn't as, extreme, or I can't remember exact phrase as what I went through. But I don't like it when people say that, because it doesn't matter what you've been through. Like, it doesn't matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter what I've been through. It doesn't matter what the person that drove past my house just now has been through. everyone's stories are so valid. And I say that to a lot of people because people sometimes say to me that want to come on my podcast, they're like, oh, but I've only been through XYZ. Like, does it fit your criteria? And I'm like, oh my God, of course it does. Like, there's no criteria to what you've been through. It doesn't matter what you've been through in life because it's personal to you and it's your unique story. What affects you will affect someone differently. It may, and that's, it's like, with your friends, for instance, something that might upset you wouldn't upset them, but something that, vice versa, things work out like that. And so I think everyone's story is so valid. Everyone's story is so important because it makes them part of who they are, and it's, the beginning of the rest of their life as well.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, it's interesting you say that because I've got two young kids as well. So it's trying to teach them to deal with setbacks as well, which obviously can be challenging at times. Um, but yeah, I think I just remember that time sitting in my house think with his cast on, he's thinking, I'm bloody useless here, essentially. You know, I can't even get out up the hill to go to the shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does bring you back down and you reevaluate, don't you?
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
interesting listening to Josh Myers as well on your podcast. He was fascinating, when he was talking about going, the dark thoughts that he had as well, and that, how he sort of just took a step back and then again reevaluated, I suppose is the word. But you're constantly reevaluating
yeah,
things in life anyway, aren't you? Like you say, whether it could be jobs that you're doing, things that you go to. When I used to go to sort of coming out of like a permanent job that I had and then going into freelance, you working with lots of different places and people. I used to get so anxious about going to certain places. It's like, well, you know what you're doing. It's like, are we going to get there on time? Who we're going to be working with, blah blah blah, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's all sort of mixed in, isn't it?
yeah. Well, it's the classic being outside of your comfort zone. Even if it's something that you've been doing for a really long time, but suddenly it's freelance or something that it's slightly different. It's being outside of your comfort zone. And I think that's when fear comes in, is our comfort zone is a really safe place. And when we're out of our comfort zone, it's a fearful place. And fear can manifest in so many different emotions, so many different things. And a lot of the time, we don't realize that that's when we might go, nah, not today. I'm not going to do it today. But actually, what it is it's our fear and our comfort zone inside. We're scared to do things. We're scared to step out of comfort zone for whatever our own reasons might be. We are, for some reason, humans are just scared to step out their comfort zone. But it's interesting because you always have the capabilities to do the things you're scared of doing. And what we realize as well is once we take that step into the fear and out of our comfort zone, yeah, okay, it's absolutely terrifying still, believe me. Like I've done it a lot, it's terrifying. You have to keep telling yourself to get through it. And then you kind of see afterwards, you're like, wow, it's like some of the most amazing things can happen once you step outside of your comfort zone.
So after you recovered and you're back on your feet, um, you've obviously started rolling with the podcast and the
Mhm.
guests. That's well underway. Tell me about how you sort of transitioned into what you're doing now. And what was the start of that like? And I remember, freelancing, you're just knocking on lots of doors, hoping some of them open. How did you go about that? What
The
were
start of that
the
was
things?
start of that was actually terrifying. So it was the summer of 2020. I'm still getting my dates wrong. I'm still not in 2025. I'm still in 2024. I'm not sure why. This was now the summer of 2023, I think. Yes, it was the summer of 2023. Yeah, because I started the podcast in 2022. So it was a year after starting the podcast. And I was like, you know what? I'm really loving interviewing and hosting and presenting. And this all came from my podcast. I was loving it. And I had quite a few athletes on the show. And being a big football fan, I was like, I want to get into this in regards to football. How can I get into this? So I stood outside the Emirates Stadium for the first four home games of the season with my Bluetooth mics, and my dad and my brother were my cameramen. Um, This was for the first four home games of the 23 season, and I just pulled fans into interviews.
Yeah.
I was mortified. I remember it now, like, and I actually remember the first one. I stood there with my brother, and I just was like, "Who should I ask?" He was like, "I don't know. You're the one that wants to do this," and I was like, "Yeah, but I don't know who to ask." And it was his, and I think the first one I did was I got his friend to do it. He was with us, and I was like, "Let me start with you because like." And that's the thing, like I was terrified. I was terrified because it was so out of my comfort zone. I knew what I wanted to do, but I hadn't done it before. I was terrified. Anyway, it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and I did that for the first four home games, and I shared them on social media. And four home games in, I sent an email to AFTV one day, and 3 days later, that was it. I was working with them. So
Amazing.
this was around October of 2023. And yeah, I was working with them, and that's just kind of where it went from there. I got to go in with those guys, which was so much fun. They're all so lovely. I had so much fun there. And towards the end of the season, well, in between that, obviously, I was, like you said, you send the emails out, the messages. I've sent over at that time, during the few months at the beginning of 2024, I think I sent close to 500 to 600 messages on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Like people don't see that part.
No.
People don't know that. Like people don't know that part unless I, say it. People don't know that part. Like I sometimes scroll through my messages and I like cringe now, and I'm like, oh my God, I sent so many. And I've had people come over to me in work settings and they're like, hey, Talia, you sent me a LinkedIn message last year. And I'm like, great.
Why
You
didn't you
and
get
like
back to me?
500 other people.
Thanks for getting back to me.
And I'm like, oh, great. But people don't see that part. Um, the countless random Instagram messages I might have sent to people, or and that's where it comes, like, as well with the hard work behind the scenes, is it's you have to do the hard work. You have to put all of that in. I was sending a show reel out to I didn't care. Like I was sending a proper show reel out to big broadcasters with with my AFTV content and my I Got Back Up content. And I was like, cool, I'm just gonna send this. And me standing outside the Emirates, I was just, yeah, that was my show that I was sending out. And lo and behold, people started to reach out. People were getting back to my messages. And I got it. Arsenal got in touch, Talk Sport got in touch over the summer. And it kind of just it started to go from there. But there gets a point, and you can have it 6 months in, a year in, 2 years in, 3 years in, where you start banging your head against the wall and you do think, either is this for me or should I really be doing this? Or it'd be so much easier if I just give it all up and I go get another office job. Like, or whatever it is that you want to do. And that's the point where, but that's like with anything in life. You'll hit it's not just one roadblock, you'll hit hundreds in whatever you might be doing, and this is why I say everyone relates, because it's not just talking about broadcasting, everyone. And if you want something enough, if you want your dreams to come true, and I believe you can have dreams, but then dreams unfold into even more amazing dreams that you haven't even dreamt of yet. Things have happened to me that I was like, even in the last few years, like look back and I was like, wow, I never in my life even dreamt about doing that. And then I did it. But you get a choice. You get the choice to give up or you get the choice to just keep going. And that's where the people that succeed in whatever it is succeed because they don't give up. And I know it's really cliche, but you don't give up, because a lot of people will give up when it gets too hard. That's when they'll sack it in. That's when they'll go, you know what, this isn't for me. And the people that really want their dreams or whatever it is, you just keep going through everything. And yeah, and from that, I did some work with the NFL. I did some work with Formula One. I worked with the darts recently, and I loved the darts. That was so much fun.
Your stuff on the
Um,
darts looks great. Around.
yeah, the darts was so much fun. And I'd never been to the darts. I've always watched the darts, every year on the television since I was young. And I got to go to the darts. I actually got to go to the darts a couple of weeks ago. I went with my brother. Oh, it was so much fun just being there. But you still watch the screens because, the dartboard, even if it's close, it's tiny. You still watch the screens. Um, but yeah, it's been amazing, and it's what I love as well, is having the mental health and the podcast side of things, being able to work in sports. And I'm not just somebody that likes to talk about sports. I've been doing sports since I was a kid. I'm a qualified climbing instructor. I've played tennis since I was a kid. I've picked up paddle tennis recently. Like, you give me a sport, I try it. I'm not sure why. I like to. I've done boxing. I swim. It's so I love sports. Sports isn't just part of my job, it's part of my life.
I
And
paddle out. I haven't
try it,
yet, but I've played
try it.
football, but since that Achilles, I haven't played tennis since. But I think paddle might be all right for the ankle.
Well, just on that, I think you have to, that you have to find things if they're not if like your physio or a doctor or it literally says online, don't do the sport. I just don't. I'm very much I wouldn't recommend. Even sometimes I do this. Well, I used to do this class at my gym, and you would hit the boxing bag and you would kick it and whatever you do sometimes. And my knees are gentle. My knees are, I protect my knees, so everyone else would be kicking this boxing bag and kneeing it, and I would be like just hitting it,
Yeah,
very nicely hitting it. But because I didn't want to take any risks, and I still don't. I'll do all these other sports, but there are things I know that if I bend that the wrong way, forget
yeah.
it. So
Well, then it would
yeah,
impact on everything else, wouldn't it? So
pardon.
it would impact then on, whatever else you're doing as well, wouldn't it? So
Well, that's the thing, and you know, setbacks are really hard because I've had setbacks in a few different things. I dislocated my ribs last year. Don't even ask. Like, I dislocated my ribs. And you know what's really funny is it was the night Arsenal played Chelsea at the Emirates. I was on AFTV that evening and I dislocated them earlier on in the day, but I had no idea I dislocated them. I thought I'd like pulled a muscle or something from the gym. And I went to AFTV that night and I walked in, I never forget it. And I was like, guys, like I was breathing like really weird as well. I was like, I'm not really sure what I've done, but like no one made me laugh. I'm heavily medicated. Please don't hug me. Something's not right with like my body. And I went to the physio then and like I look back and worked and I got through the whole game. And I think I was hugging people as well during the show because we won. And I went to the doctor the next day, the physio, and she was like, yeah, you've dislocated 4 ribs. And I was like, cool. I mean, it wasn't cool, but my point is I remember that. And it was a huge setback. I know it was very different to my knee, but I remember what I went through with my knee. And even though it was very different and it was only a few weeks off, maybe, the brain goes straight back into a bad memory of, well, last time I was injured like this, I couldn't do anything for close to a year. And even though I wasn't in that headspace or physically I wasn't there, I remember very well just going straight back down and feeling horrendous because I was like, oh my God, my ribs, like, how long is this going to be? How long can I not go to the gym? How long can I? Da, 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 da? And it's amazing how the brain just goes straight back. When you have a setback, it can go straight back into a dark space. But you have to remind yourself that you've got through something before. It's not the same thing, and you'll get through whatever it is else that you're going through now again.
so what's on the sort of horizon for the next sort of few months, and then have you got? Do you do like a plan, long-term plan or anything like that?
But just life in general. Um, I like to, it's a good question because I know a lot of people have very long-term plans. And I think I used to be that kind of person, but I think since my accident and everything I've learned afterwards, I dream, but I don't like to plan too much because I've watched things unfold for me that never in my life did I ever think I was going to do. Even like last summer, for instance, after I'd just done the first job with Arsenal. And then I got an email from TalkSport, and then I was, hosting the TalkSport show. And even that, for instance, I never thought I'd be doing something like that. And that's what I mean by have a plan, but also when opportunities come up, that you never thought you would end up doing, take them, see what happens, go with them. Even like the NFL, when I was standing in front of 61,000 people at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on all four of the big screens, it was great. Um, Actually, a very funny story on that. Being Arsenal fans, our Spurs were playing that evening. I always forget who. It's really bad. I always forget who they were playing. Don't mind, don't care. Um, and Spurs were playing that evening. And I was working at the NFL, and my dressing room was the manager's dressing room, my green room, sorry. And I made a joke to the guys I was with. I made a joke saying, I made a joke and I was like, while I'm in here, I'm going to taint it. Spurs are playing. I mean, obviously, I didn't do anything. I'm just saying, if anyone listens to this, I didn't actually do anything. I made a joke. I was like, while I'm standing in here, Spurs are going to lose today. Like I was, joking about it. Lo and behold, that was a game they went from 2-0 up to I'm pretty sure 3-2 down. And they lost the game while I was sitting in the changing room. And I was like, see. I was like, see. Um, but even something like that, like I was, being on four big screens at the Spurs Stadium, which is obviously the most fantastic stadium. But even that kind of thing that happened to me, I never thought I was going to do something like that. And that's what I mean by you have to be so open to the possibilities and the opportunities in life because I know a lot of people get stuck and you might think, well, where's life going or what's going to happen, whatever it might be, but you literally never know what's going to happen. Every morning you wake up, every day you walk out your front door, you never know who you're going to bump into, what email's going to come through on your phone. So, yes, I do have dreams and plans and visions, but I also like to see where things unfold. I've made new connections recently that, even you and I only very recently spoke. I've made new connections recently that I didn't know a month ago. And that's what I believe in. And you never know where things are going to go. So I'm starting, a new project this week, which I'm looking forward to. And it's like everything you do, you see what else manifests and unfolds from that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I support Liverpool and I was like, I want to get to the Carabao Cup final. How am I going to do it? And I approached someone I actually started out with, company, and I ended up going there working for them. Obviously, Liverpool lost, but it was a great atmosphere, great occasion, great thing to be working on. But yeah, it's like, yeah, you're just trying to look for those spontaneous moments too, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And that's what's so
Yeah.
important about the spontaneous, the spontaneity in life is it happens and it really, it really does happen. And you have to put yourself out there. It's not all going to just land in your lap. But if you start to put yourself out there and you put the hard work in, whatever it might be, things then do start to come to you.
Like those nights out you don't plan, you're like, you want to go out for a beer an hour before kids go to bed. Let's go.
Yeah. How many times have you probably messaged someone or friend or whoever it is, family, and you've gone, I really don't want to go out tonight. And then someone goes, yeah, but it's the classic case of if you go, you'll have a really nice time. And it's like, oh, fine. And then you go and you have a great time.
And then let's just chat quickly a bit about Arsenal and what's it been like as a supporter, and then obviously working for the club as well and AFTV.
It's been well, you know what? It's been really interesting to get into working with Arsenal over the last few seasons. Uh has been, I think, fascinating is the word because it was especially start around the 23 season. Um, it's hard being an Arsenal fan. I mean, it's hard being any football fan, when you follow your club. It's hard being an Arsenal fan, especially after what we've been through the last few seasons. The first, was it 2 seasons ago? We were very lucky. I mean, that was a complete fluke, I believe. And then the following season, which was last season, it just, we lacked the confidence by the end of the season, and that's what happened. And then this season is really difficult because I believe we had the confidence this season. We had the confidence to do it. We just, things weren't in our favor. And I know a lot of people don't like hearing Arsenal fans say that, but the string of red cards at the beginning of the season, the string of injuries. I know a lot of people have had injuries this season, but had we have had a fit team, I know we haven't got the amount of players that everyone's expecting or would like, but had we have had a fit team without Saka, without Odegaard, it was like nearly crossovers. It could have been, I say it still can, it still can, it still can, but it could have been a lot more, we could have been a lot more confident in this season. But we're still in the Champions League, going to play Real Madrid. That's going to be so much fun. And anything can still happen in the Premier League. I'm still optimistic.
Yeah, I think Liverpool, it's mathematically still possible, and Liverpool haven't been playing very well recently, so you
Yeah,
definitely got a chance.
yeah, mathematically, it's possible. Until the maths is
Yeah,
gone, then, there's still hope.
we're just wanting them to get the job done as soon as possible now from a Liverpool point of view. 'Cause, yeah, they were
Yeah.
terrible in the
Yeah.
Carabao Cup final, unfortunately, but
See, I obviously wanted Newcastle to win that one after what they did to us. I was like, come on, go ahead and win it then. Go and win it.
they battered us. And I was celebrating every tackle. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Fans-
Yeah.
I walked past Box Park when I finished, and the place was absolutely bouncing. Green eyes blaring out, and it was absolutely bouncing. I think the players were in there as well. Uh, I'd have gone in if it was Liverpool, but yeah, never mind.
You still could have gone in and celebrated.
Well, could have done. My dad supports Newcastle, so at least someone was happy.
Well, there you go. There you go. There you go. I find it fascinating when family members support different teams.
Yeah, I took him on a tour. He's never been to see a match before. I took him on a tour of the stadium a couple of years ago. Have
Mm.
you been to St James Park before?
No, I haven't.
No, it's pretty cool. Right in the city centre. So, it'd be great to go to like watch a match there, I'm sure.
Mm.
Everything's there um, on your doorstep, pretty much. Yeah.
No, that's really nice. That's really
Jordan's
nice.
a good crack as well.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. They're good fun.
Brilliant stuff. I think we're running out of time. But yeah, have you got a message for anyone sort of going through things and then that you'd, say to help them? That's
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different things you can say to people, and I know everyone's circumstances are very different. First of all, I think it's so important to, and I know a lot of people say this, but it's so important to reach out to someone. It just is, whether it's family, whether it's a friend, or whether it is a therapist, or you can call hotlines and anonymously and things like that. It is so important to talk about what's going on inside your mind because we've all got darkness going on in our own ways. And if you keep it in too long, it bottles up and it manifests into very different things. So it is very important to talk. And I know not everyone likes to, but it is. But also things things do get better, things will get better, things will change in your life. And if you are going through something in your life right now and it's completely changed everything, as you begin to heal, you'll never go back to the person you once were. You just won't. You'll never be the same person you once were before whatever it is that happened. You'll physically, or you will be the human, but you will never be the actual same person. And you have to, it's being able to let go of the past and let go of the person you once were and start to adapt and change and accept and become this new person that you are, learning things, whatever it is that you're going through, learning things as you're going, understanding things, being able to let go of the person you once were and bringing everything new into the future and the present moment because life really is amazing and life really is exciting and amazing things really do happen. You just you have to be okay with letting things go, especially like I said, the past version of you. And we all lose ourselves in our own ways and we look in the mirror sometimes when we don't recognize who we are. But slowly, slowly, step by step, it's one day at a time, one step at a time. You go at your own pace. Just because everyone else might be doing it quicker than you go at your own pace. And as you begin to heal, you'll start to see this new version of yourself. And you take little things from the past with you, but it's just a constant adapting, a constant, you're constantly changing, you're constantly adapting and learning and loving and living. And to be honest with you, just never give up because whatever it is, just never give up because you might want to give up, but there'll probably be someone else that out there that doesn't want you to give up. And if you break through that barrier, you then again start to see the amazing things on the other side.
good stuff. Well, thanks for joining me this morning. Great to have you on and great to chat about something different as well, other than just football with all my other. No, but,
We touched upon
yeah,
it.
yeah. Well, good luck to Arsenal for the rest of the season in the
Thank you very
Champions
much.
League. I'm actually doing the second leg for the club, so hopefully the tie will still be alive. It should be alive by then because you're first leg at home, aren't you? So,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, we are. We are. It'll be alive. We'll be alive.
you going to the game at the game at home,
Hopefully, yeah, hopefully I will be going. So
probably something like that.
yeah, hopefully it'll be fun. I don't think I'm going to Madrid, but we'll see. Who knows? I might.
Maybe. You never know. Brilliant.
Exactly.
Well, thanks very much, Talia, and check out I Got Back Up podcast, Talia's podcast, which is on Spotify. It's on all
Yeah, yeah,
the
everywhere
usual
you can.
places. Yeah. And as ever, like and subscribe to Hey Joe What You Know, and we'll see you soon.